Hey New Life Youth, it's Courtney here and I am so excited because today we're jumping into a brand new series called Kingdom People. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be exploring what it means to be kingdom people in this crazy and complicated world. What does it mean to be followers of Jesus? What does it look like? What sets us apart from the rest of the world? So today we're jumping straight on into what it means to be a follower of Jesus. We've got James joining us today. James, how are you?
I am kicking goals.
You're kicking
goals. Yeah.
That's good. James is a sports fanatic. You will always find him doing some sort of sports metaphors without fail. James is also our Kids Life pastor here. Genius of a man. And we're ready to hear some great wisdom from him. But before we get any further, let's listen to the Bible verse for today.
The first disciples. One day, as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them,
"Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people."
And they left their nets at once and followed him. A little farther up the shore, he saw two other brothers, James and John, sitting in a boat with their father Zebedee, repairing their nets. And he called them to come too. They immediately followed him, leaving the boat and their father behind.
So Jesus calls his disciples to be kingdom people. Maybe not in those exact words, but basis of it. He calls his disciples to be kingdom people. James, what do you think it means to be a kingdom person?
I think you said at the start, like, what does it look like for us to stand out? Like, how do our lives look any different from people who don't belong to the kingdom of heaven? Because that's the other thing, like, you either are a kingdom person or you aren't a kingdom person.
Yeah.
And the evidence of that is not just in, attendance to church or to youth or anything like that. It's also in like the language that we do, the content that we fill our life in on social media, but then also, the kinds of shows we watch, games we play, language that we use. So I think, if you want to be a kingdom person, it actually takes a choice, and sometimes it takes a daily choice. The first important thing is that all kingdom people are led by Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about it, we're all led by something. I mean, there are a couple of things that, sports teams led by captains, right? Everyone follows the captain. I had to put a sports analogy in there after you said that, right?
Fanatic.
And so kingdom people are led by Jesus.
Yeah, and what is it? So we call ourselves followers of Jesus. Like you said, we're all following something, and I think whatever we're following is leading us to something else. Like it's a journey, right? And so if you're not following Jesus, I think it's important that you ask the question, well, what am I following? Because James is right, you're following something and it's important that you're aware of what that is. But what do you actually think it means to be led by Jesus? Like, what does that look like in our day-to-day lives?
In our day-to-day lives, I think part of it is obviously emulating the way Jesus lived.
Yeah.
But Jesus was also perfect and we're not. So it's not always the easiest thing to stack yourself up against. But when it comes to, choosing like why Jesus, it's a common misunderstanding that Jesus doesn't understand my life. Or Jesus, you don't get me. Or Jesus, you never had to deal with, gossip in my friendship group. You never had to deal with blah, 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 blah. But the fact is that Jesus was fully God and also fully human. And the Bible talks about in Hebrews about how he is what's called a great high priest like no other, because he lived a human life, that he dealt with heartbreak, that he dealt with temptation, he dealt with fear, he dealt with doubt. And so more than anyone else, in Jesus, we have a leader who at the same time can empathize with what we go through, but at the same time is God and has the answers to pull us through what we go through. And so when we're thinking like, why Jesus? We're led by Jesus, and there's no better person to be led by than Jesus.
It's not just that we're led by Jesus, though. I think there's more to being a kingdom person than just that. I think we're shaped by grace as kingdom people. And I think if you look back at the story that we heard about when Jesus calls his disciples, he didn't go and find the perfect people. Like, he didn't go and find the priests. He didn't go and call the rich. He didn't go and call the popular. He went to find the fishermen. They weren't really cool people. I don't know, Jason, likes to fish sometimes, not a cool thing to do. The fishermen aren't cool. They weren't wealthy either. He went and he found the lowest, and he comes and finds us, and he calls us to follow. And so I think it's important that we recognize that like you said before, James, we're not perfect, and yet Jesus still calls us, and he calls us and invites us to be led by him and to go on this journey with him.
And you don't have to wait until you think you're good enough for Jesus to then have the new identity of a kingdom person. The fact is that you said that, you know, we're all led by something to something. And when we're led by Jesus, it's not like we're going to reach the finish line this side of heaven. And so we can understand that over the journey, we are shaped or we're molded or we're sculpted by God's grace. The fact that we're going to make mistakes and Jesus says, hey, that's okay. I forgive you. Let's try again. And so when you think about the outworking of being a kingdom person, all the stuff that you're going to talk about following on from this week, never feel like you're disqualified from being a kingdom person, because it's God's grace that actually shapes us and that helps us then try again. And that's the kind of grace that you don't get anywhere else or from any other leader but Jesus.
Yeah. And then I think when we have an understanding and are shaped by that grace and allow that to shape us, I think then we are able to then be moved by love, which is the third, I think, not qualifying. What would you say?
It's kind of like the outworking.
Yes.
So the identity of a kingdom person, you're led by Jesus. Then the process, you're shaped by grace. But then what do you actually do as a kingdom person? Well, all of our motivation is that we're moved by love.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about being moved by love, I think, you know, Jesus is the epitome of love. And so when we're being led by Jesus, we're going to be taken on this journey to love. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer, an incredible theologian of around, was it World War II?
Yeah, good job. She got it.
World War II. He says this quote that only love gets close enough to know. Only love gets close enough to know. And I think that is the epitome of Jesus's ministry. Like, you look at Jesus's life and he gets close to the people that no one else wanted to get close with. He sat with the sinners. He sat with those that everyone, like the society, had shunned. He sat and had meals with people that society thought were too broken. And it was in these moments that Jesus was able to be moved by love and love on these people in ways that they had never experienced before. And I think that's a defining factor of a kingdom person, is that we actually get close enough to people to love them well and to be in their sphere of influence enough to be able to see them, to see their brokenness, to recognize that we too are broken. We're shaped by grace, but because of that, we're able to love them in ways that society isn't able to, because we're led by Jesus, we're led by the epitome of love, and we're able to sit with them in their brokenness and love on them.
Yeah, so when you think about how love can be your motivation for everything that you do, words that you say, the people that you meet, how you interact with them, being moved by love, it's not about necessarily affirming everyone's actions or anything like that. It's actually about loving people enough to give them a better vision for themselves, because they either have decided to turn their back on Jesus before, they've never known who Jesus is. You may be the only person they know who loves Jesus. And so the way that, like you said, we need to get close enough so that we can get our hands dirty and actually love people the way that Jesus did. Instead of, you know, sitting back in the pews, throwing rotten fruit at people and saying, oh, Jesus says you shouldn't do that. Oh, you're a terrible person. Oh my gosh. Like, that's not what Jesus did. It's not what kingdom people do. Kingdom people actually get close enough. They get in the trenches with people through life to then be able to explain why they should also become a kingdom person, to be led by Jesus, shaped by grace and moved by love.
And I think you make a really good point, James. We're going to get our hands dirty. Like, getting close enough to love means that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be a real fluffy feeling of love all the time. It's going to be hard.
There's going to be tears. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be all of these things. But if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing.
Yeah, 100%. So New Life Youth, as we continue to explore what it means to be a kingdom person, can I encourage you to actually go to the Bible, go to Matthew, read the Gospels, and figure out who Jesus is and whether you believe he is worth following, because that's a really important factor that you need to figure out. And then once you figure out whether Jesus is someone that you believe is worth following,
which is a yes.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Yes. But don't take our word for it. Actually figure it out for yourself. You'll be able to be shaped by grace and then moved by love so that we're able to be set apart for the kingdom of God. Thank you so much for joining us, James. Thanks for being here. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be updated when we post, which will be next week. And yes, let's be kingdom people.
Rock on. Kick some goals.